Hi everyone, it's Evangeline here at eTrailer. Today we have the Kuat Piston Pro 3 bike carrier. We're going to take a look at how it fits here on our 2023 GMC Terrain. This is going to be the slightly more affordable version of the Kuat Piston Pro X. You still have the cool features like the piston wheel mounts. And it is going to be a very large but also very sturdy rack for your different bikes. And we're going to focus here on our Terrain, how it fits with the vehicle and if it's going to be a good fit for you. This is definitely going to be a very hefty rack, no matter what car you have it on. And some of the features are going to be a little tricky to do if you're on your own. One of that is going to be the tilt-away feature. I highly recommend having a second person help you out with this function, especially if you have your bike rack fully loaded up with bikes. But I'll demonstrate for you on my own. There's going to be a lever here in the center, and you're going to want to pull that lever. When you pull the lever, you're then able to tilt the rack down. Now I'm supporting the rack with my hand on it, just so I'm not supporting it by the bikes. It is nice to see that we go most of the way down, but we don't exactly hit the ground, so you shouldn't be worried about crushing your fingers. What you should be paying attention to is if you do have a bike loaded up at the end, you are going to have to dodge out of the way of those handlebars. But once you do, you're then able to open up your hatch door. Plenty of clearance here. You can see the distance from the door, the pedals, and the handlebars. I'm not worried about that at all. I can now grab my stuff from the inside of the Terrain. If you're the type of person that likes to switch out your shoes in the back of your vehicle, now is the perfect time to do so. You can do that without having to take your bikes off. And then when you lift the rack up, I do recommend lifting by the rack and not by the bikes. Get up into place. Once it snaps or clicks into place, you are now ready to drive. That might be a lot of weight that you will be dealing with, since this does have a 50-pound per bike weight capacity. So if you have your slightly heavier electric bikes, this can carry it, and it carries it pretty easily. This is a dual wheel mount rack, meaning you have cradles that secure the front as well as your rear wheel. Check out choosing a dual wheel mount rack if you want to see how that compares with other racks. It's a very easy to use design, and Kuat makes it even easier with the use of their piston one-touch levers. So to demonstrate, holding the bike with one hand, I just hit one lever with the other hand, switch hands, hit the other one, give this a little push to get myself a little bit more clearance, and then I have the option of either ramping this down or lifting the whole rack off. When you have bikes that have, let's say, an electric bike where your motor is in the back, it can get super hefty. This position right here is going to be very helpful for that, because then you're not having to lift the entire weight up and then onto your rack. And this also has different levels for the trays too. So that way not only can you roll your bikes back and forth to get the best fit, but you also have different height adjustments as well, or height differences, so that way you can carry around more bikes more easily. Now press the lever again to bring our mount back into the neutral position. Then we can pull it up into the ratcheting position. So you'll hear it start to click, and that's what's securing your bike to the bike rack. We're going to push this all the way down so that we can make our rack more compact and neat. Now, if you needed to lock up your bikes, there are locks in the center of the trays, and you are going to use this with the external cable locks included with your kit. Some of the first comments I hear about the Kuat Piston, though, is that it's really a large bike rack, and it does take up a lot of space behind our car. So let's take some measurements. If I measure from the bumper of our Terrain to the end of the bike rack, this is at 35 inches, or almost 3 feet. And that's a lot of space to consider when, let's say, you have a really small garage or you need to park into a tight spot. The next measurement is going to be ground clearance. So if I measure at the end of the rack to the ground, that's about 19 3/4 inches. If I measure from the cradle to the ground, about 19 1/2 inches. So that's gonna be where our bikes are going to sit. This is how high you're gonna have to lift your bike up to get to the furthest cradle, but also this is where the bike rack sits. Compare that to where your shank is at 8 1/2 inches. You see there's a decent shank rise so that this will be higher up off the ground. Awesome if you have to go over steep inclines like those steep driveways or go over speed bumps. This will help prevent bottoming out. If I pull this lever again, but this time I lift up on the rack, we're now in the portable or the compact position. And this is gonna be great if you're just driving around town, not planning on taking your bikes out just yet, but you also don't want to take your bike rack off. Also, if you need to load this onto your vehicle and you have a small garage, this will give you a lot more chance of getting in there. Now, while it looks like it comes close to the vehicle, there is a good amount of space there. And if I give our bike rack a good shake, I'm not worried about it making any contact. So measuring from our bumper to the closest point, that's gonna be about 1 inch of space to those wheel mounts. The length is now added to the back of our vehicle, measures at 12 inches or 1 foot. Big difference compared to when it was folded down. And this is what it's gonna look like for all the cars and people behind you. It's a pretty cool looking bike rack, but it does cover a good amount of stuff behind the vehicle. So we can see how it does cover our license plate and our backup camera. Our backup camera sits right there at the top of the rack. What are visible though are gonna be our taillights as well as our rear window. So if that's gonna be a major issue for you, most 3 or 4 bike platform racks are gonna be the exact same on the back of your vehicle. Yes, this is gonna be a little bit bulkier, but you do have the option of just having this in the lowered position. You can step on this foot lever here and then drop the rack down, and that will lower it down for you. This will also be great if you need access into your hatch. You're gonna have to do that move anyways to open up the door. If you're familiar with the Kuat bike racks, you know that all of them are super quality racks. They look great and they work great. The Kuat Piston Pro is just gonna be the slightly more affordable version of the Kuat Piston Pro X. We have this matte black look versus the shiny paint that the Pro X has with the Kashima coating. But very similar features. This secures into your hitch, tightens down with your security Allen tool, and uses pistons to operate the levers or the mounts that hold in your bike. But if you're looking for different options outside of that brand, something that I might actually recommend is the Benton 4 bike rack. That one has similar weight capacity for bikes. Instead of the 50, that one has a 55-pound capacity, and it's gonna be a lot smaller and more compact compared to your Piston Pro. Now, it is or could be a front wheel mount bike rack, but it's not a dual wheel mount rack like the Piston Pro is, which is super convenient when you have multiple bikes. It makes it a lot easier to get them all in place, tighten them down, and now you're on the road. So for a bike rack that works great for carrying around multiple bikes, is super convenient to use, and is a confirmed fit for your vehicle, this right here was a look at the Kuat Piston Pro 3 bike rack, and you saw it on a 2023 GMC Terrain.